Hello everyone and welcome back once again, F1 2019. We are in a great mood right now. We're coming off of our first career win in Mexico, helping us really lock down the position. Third in the Drivers' Championship, got about a 40-point cushion there. Sorry, bad math looking at the thing. And now we are headed to our home GP in the US. This time, no gearbox issues, no penalties on the horizon for us, so we aren't going to have our gearbox jam after taking a pole position like we did last year. So really riding high and a good chance for another really solid finish. So we take a peek. You see just how much we still have left to adapt, though. We have about we only have 3 races left to accumulate development points to make sure we get those adaptations done for next season. There's a good chance we're going to roll back a little bit. But at this stage, we're also going to take a look and see what we've still got in our power unit allocations, see what is still relatively fresh, just to kind of put the best stuff forward. Obviously, we had some poor qualifying coming out of my little Christmas break, right before Singapore, and so we ended up taking a couple extra grid penalties, so that gives us a little bit more flexibility with the engine components that we have available to us. Obviously, I've been trying to stick to the only 3 in the pool at the time, so a few of those have been retired. I've typically kept the 3 freshest on board, but at this stage, only a couple races left to go. We can really just kind of dial up some of the freshest components we have left and make as much power as we possibly can for the last couple of runs through. And also, practice gearbox getting a little worn, so we're going to go ahead and slap a new bad boy in there. There's no penalties related to that. That's just for the practice sessions, and looks like we will be running through the end of the season with this gearbox. Hopefully it makes it, but let's head out to qualifying.
It's time for today's qualifying session to begin here in the United States. Welcome to the Circuit of the Americas. And I'm here, of course, with Anthony Davidson on what has turned out to be a very pleasant day indeed. No weather to interfere, no problems on the track, so absolutely no room for error.
That's right, Crofty. It's looking good out there at the moment. Each team will have their own game plan for this session, and of course, once the cars leave the garage, they'll be under parc fermé conditions, so any last-minute adjustments need to be done right here and now. Beyond that, it's all up to the driver. Who can keep their tyres in the right temperature? Who can hit their apexes? No race fuel on board these days, of course. These are the fastest cars we've had in a long, long time, and it's right here in qualifying where they're at their absolute peak. Let's get started.
All right, so here we are hopping out. Slightly overcast day. No rain in the forecast for the race weekend, though, as we are out on our first laps of Q1. So that being said, we're going to have to kind of keep an eye out for the weather. Usually at this stage of the season, in Q1, we're able to put in our banker lap and usually be pretty safe to make it through to Q2. But if the weather turns and gets sunnier, then all the lap times are going to come way down because the track's going to warm up, the tires are going to get grippier, so very likely we will have to do another run out there. So you see Lewis Hamilton sets the early pace at a 132.8 as we are banging in the last couple of corners around Austin here. So we get hard on the brakes into that last tight left-hander, and the short run to the start-finish line, only about a half a second down from him there. So we jump ahead. We went back-to-back 2 straight laps there. We've got about a quarter of a second upgrade there. We've fallen all the way back to 7th on the grid. A lot of people have slotted in between. Nobody has quite overtaken Hamilton's time just yet. But here we are, about a half a second up now, and if we can get a good run, we were a little early in the brake zone there. So we do lose a little bit of time coming out of that last corner. Still pick up about 4/10, go 3rd fastest at the moment. But so here we are. The sun came out at the tail end. Checkered flag has waved, and you see we've fallen all the way down to 11th. And guys are putting in good times all around. But you can see in our lap delta in the top right, already a half second up here. So we just need to keep it clean the rest of the way around the lap, and we will easily improve our time into a solid position to move ourselves on into Q2, where the real battle is going to be seeing what tires we can get on for this race. So as we cross the line, go 5th fastest in Q1, a pretty solid time there. Really, I'm not trying to put in Q1 times to be top of the grid, but I want to see how I'm comparing to the rest of the field here. But Verstappen is early in the lead there on the softs. We're out on the mediums for the first laps out. We let the clock kind of run a little ways. I wanted to try to get as late in the session to get a run out with the medium tires, but still have enough time to come get the soft tires if need be. But a little bit out of sorts coming out of the little technical section. It's almost like a stadium section before that flat out long right-hander around the tower. A lot of wheel spin around this track and a little bit of a lock up into the final corner. So not our best run out there. Yeah, 2 seconds off of the soft tire pace. The softs were just really, really quick compared to the mediums around this time. So we did hop back out onto the softs right at the very end. You can see the improvement we've got, almost a full second up at this point. So we should be able to, with a good finish of the lap, get ourselves into Q3 pretty comfortably. Verstappen a 131.5. There's a couple of cars crossing the line ahead of us, but we are definitely quicker than the likes of Stroll and Albon. So we shouldn't have too much problem crossing the line. Let's see if we made it into Q3. And there we are, 7th there, so just inside the cut line, top 10 there. And then we're going to pop out. We did an early lap on some worn tires in Q3, did 2 back-to-backs to try and set a good time. They just weren't the best, but we did get ourselves up to 6th position, so we're out running one more lap on the freshest of fresh soft tires, and you see we pick up a good chunk of time through that flat out, somewhere that we had to back out on with the tire wear earlier in our previous lap. So here we are coming out of the final corner. We're going to gain almost about 4 tenths there, but we'll see does that move us up.
Very happy with that position. Well done.
We're still 6th on the provisional grid there, pending any penalties. Not bad, keeps us mostly out of trouble.
Complete, let's review our top 3 today. Verstappen, Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. With qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid lineup for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
There you see Verstappen, the class of the field, a full half second ahead of Hamilton. We were only about 3 tenths down on Leclerc, so we'll see if we can make that up in the race.
What fantastic enthusiasm we have for Formula One here in the United States of America. And it's an enthusiasm born from generations of memorable Grand Prix racing. Bruce McLaren took his maiden victory at Sebring way back in 1959, and John Watson's 1983 victory at Long Beach, well, that still holds the record for the lowest ever starting position for a race winner. It's the Circuit of the Americas then, situated 14 miles outside the great city of Austin. This is the 3.6-mile lap with 20 corners, 10 each to the left and to the right, and top speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Overtaking opportunities are available into turns 1 and 12, especially with that rear wing DRS wide open. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Why don't we kick off by discussing Max Verstappen? What a season they've had. A well-deserved championship victory, and the pressure now surely off with the title already in the bag.
It really is well-deserved. I wouldn't say it's been a faultless title challenge, but certainly one that has been consistent and well-managed. Here's hoping they let off a bit of steam today and give us an exciting race.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Giovinazzi, Bottas, Oldtimer, and Gasly, Raikkonen, Verstappen. They've taken a grid penalty. Magnussen and Lucas Faber, Stroll, Albon, Carlos Sainz, and Vettel, Russell, Perez, Lando Norris, and Devon Butler. Ricciardo and Romain Grosjean sits at the back of the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Okay, I know it's your home Grand Prix, but treat it like any other race. Don't take unnecessary risks.
All right, so you see Verstappen taking a 10-place grid penalty. I'm sure with the title in hand, he's throwing on some new parts just to let the car run a little safer, not risk a mechanical DNF throughout the race. So he will be chasing us down from behind. So that does give us an extra position on the starting grid, moving us from 6th to 5th. Now, unfortunately, since we didn't make it through on the medium tires, we're going to have to be doing a pretty straight up one-stop strategy, soft onto the medium, as opposed to doing that reverse strategy that we enjoy so much. But here we are, getting ready to head up the hill into turn 1. The lights go out. We're just a little bit slow off the line there. And then as the traction gets down, people start to come around us. So we just kind of get on the brakes early, kind of settle in, try and not cause too much trouble in. A little bit of wheel banging with Giovinazzi as he's a little slow getting on the throttle out of the corner. We bring up our damage display, make sure we didn't take any damage, and then dodge him cutting across us into turn 2 there, turn 3. So heavy fuel loads, you know, you get so used to running the practice laps and running the qualifying laps with the light fuel loads, especially through the S sections like here and at Silverstone, that it does take some adjustment. So it's really easy to get caught out in S sections early in the race because you're just not used to how heavy the car is. But all told, once the line is kind of settled in, we only lost one position essentially on the start there. Verstappen, though, has made a move up into 7th, so we're back in a Red Bull sandwich once again like we were at points during last week's race in Mexico. This time it's the other way around with Giovinazzi in front of us and Verstappen behind. But now there are some overtaking opportunities on the track, especially this section we're in right here. There's a couple of different lines you can take through that combination of left-handers, but the real big attack points are obviously, you know, into turn 1 and then on that long back straight into turn 12. Not much you can do once you get to this section of the track. Once you get through that little double left-hander and then you come out onto that flat right, you're pretty much settled in until you hit the end of the lap, in which case you hit another DRS straight and try and go for another overtake. But we're going to try and keep ourselves clean, set ourselves up well to make a move once DRS is open. We just don't quite have the drive out of some of these slower corners. The AI just takes it a little bit better than we do, gets the power down a little bit smoother out of turn 1 and out of turn 11. So we're really going to have to, when we do go for passes, kind of chuck it up the inside into the braking zones. But we are running a slightly higher downforce than standard, just by a click or so. So we do tend to actually gain a little bit of ground in the S section. So that's an area that we can help close up. But coming out of this corner here, really have to be careful getting the throttle down. Another thing is there's a lot of areas for wheel spin and losing the back end of the car around this lap as well. So you want to be very cautious in that regard. You'll see throughout the race there are a few sections that I have to catch some snap oversteer and save the car from there. But you see Verstappen already hounding us. He may have won the championship already, but he is not going to just cruise his way to the end of the season. He is going to fight for positions just like he did against us last week in Mexico. Really challenged us for the lead in the closing stages of that race. We had a bit of a buffer here, and now he's already hounding us, trying to make his way up through the field. We are starting to lose a little bit of ground to Giovinazzi in front of us, but that happens around, especially if you're too close in the S section. The dirty air, the lack of front downforce you get, especially on a lot of the more twisty technical bits, really tough to handle when you have minimized downforce on the front. But thus far, we've been able to keep Verstappen off of us. That should be the end of lap 2, I believe. We should have DRS coming next lap, if I'm not mistaken. You see how the rhythm getting through the S sections into that longer left-hander or right-hander, and then into another left and then a long right-hander to set up. As you crest the little hill, another oversteer spot. Coming over that hill, the back end gets very unloaded. So on flat ground, I think that corner would be one you could really pin the throttle on pretty early, because it's about a 4th gear corner coming around the left-hander. But without the rear downforce, it's nasty. But yeah, here you go. See, DRS is open. Verstappen closing on the back side of us. He's going to look to the outside as we move to the inside to kind of defend into turn 12 here. We managed to hold him off that time around. Luckily, we also had DRS in our favor to help hold him behind. But we managed to stay within that 1 second of Giovinazzi in front of us. Hamilton is starting to run off the front of the field a little bit, but Leclerc and Bottas fighting in front of Gasly and Giovinazzi, as you see a little oversteer catch right there. Getting the throttle down just a little too early before the rear tires are fully hooked up. they're starting to slow up that little pack in front of us, allowing us to keep ground as we're really having to spend a lot of effort defending from Verstappen behind us. But you see just how much they have to slow down getting on the brakes in that final corner because they're in such a long train. We close up a lot of gap here. But DRS is open now. Another great overtaking opportunity. They're going to have to really back it up. And we send it just down the inside. A little bit of a late reaction to make sure that Verstappen doesn't jump down the inside of us. But the way that they had to kind of accordion up on the brake zone allowed us to jump down the inside. Now we're back up to our original starting position of 5th. And we are behind a Renault of Gasly, who late in the season has really stepped up. But here we go, short jump ahead. Lap 7 now. We've still got the 2 Red Bulls behind us. DRS open coming down the back straight. See if we can once again make a move on to Gasly. We dive down the inside. Bottas locks up in front of him. Holds Gasly up just a little bit. Gives us a little bit more opportunity. So in a way, Valtteri's mistake allowed us that position, even though our fight was with Pierre Gasly there. So huge mistake from Bottas. A big lock up into turn 12. And now we are up P4. We can see the podium just in front of us. A win, though, it's with the way Hamilton's going, it's not looking likely. He's really just took off the front of the field. You can see he's just barely clearing some of the camera shots right before it's right as soon as it switches. You can see he's just now heading up the hill as we are crossing the start-finish line. So he's got quite a bit of ground ahead of us while we do our best to chase down the Mercedes and the Ferrari in front of us. Now 2 spots ahead of us there is Charles Leclerc, who is still very much in the mix for this 3rd position in the championship against us. So we really got to put the hammer down and try and make it back up to him. And unfortunately, we're running this soft medium. Decent tire wear around this track, so we are definitely going to be hitting the tire wear cliffs, both on the softs and the mediums just before the end of each stint. So it's going to be a matter of pushing carefully when we can. We really have to manage the tires and try not to lock them up as much as possible throughout. But you see into the hairpin there, Bottas was very slow through that corner, allows us a great opportunity to get on the throttle. DRS wide open. We've got the fuel mix turned all the way up. We've got the ERS turned all the way up. We're going to kind of take a peek outside, inside. We're going to go down the inside of him. Little bit of a lockup, but we managed to hold the inside. He still sneaks around the outside. We're going to be fighting with him here. So luckily, this section of the track, there are a couple of lines you can run through. So we are able to battle side by side. We're going to go ahead and take the inside line into this hairpin. He swings a little bit wider, carries a little more speed, but we're able to get just in front of him before we get to the exit and the apex. So we're able to head him off and snag that position off of him. Now you see how much ground that Leclerc has gained due to that battle between Bottas and I. So I'm going to have to try and reel him back in, but he's going to dive into the pit. So he's going to be one of the first guys to get off that soft tire. So now we've got Hamilton way up the road. Let's see, cross the line. About 4 seconds up ahead, but Bottas is right behind us, still hounding us. He's not ready to jump in for new tires yet. And we still have a few more laps on our soft tires as well. So we're going to have to keep an eye back. We don't have the DRS off of Hamilton to help us defend down that long back straight. It's going to be a lot of trying to conserve as much ERS as we can through the early stages of the lap to deploy it all on that back straight and get as much straight line speed as we can. Now he'll still be able to get a higher top speed because of it, but we go a little wide there, and now we're on the curbing, and the back end really steps out on us somehow. Keep a little bit of throttle in and manage to keep the car from going around, but we're able to slot right back in behind Bottas, just in front of Pierre Gasly. But nearly an absolute total spin out, somehow kept it going forward. Definitely did not make the rear tires very happy on that though, but we did come through, lose that position just before the DRS detection zone, so we make a move and Bottas again into turn 12. Big lockup, big mistake, gives us a fairly clean run through that corner. Alright, Jeff, thank you for reminding me. I'd had to burn a lot of it to try and make that ground up. If you don't make that move there, you're stuck behind in dirty air, so I wanted to try and get that move done. I think if he doesn't lock up into that braking zone, he has good enough braking performance to get to the apex before I do down the inside, and he defends that pass. But because of that lockup mistake from Bottas, again, this early in the race, we're able to slingshot our way back into second. So 2 mistakes back to back. I made one, he gets the spot. he made one, I'd take that spot. But we did lose about a second and a half to Lewis Hamilton off the front there because of our little squabble.
George is coming in for his stop.
Now there's yellow flags ahead, and we're not in a spot where it's going to be any lap traffic. That's Lewis Hamilton, race leader, pulling off the side. Mechanical failure, gifting us first place. Unbelievable. Did not expect to see that one happen, but we've been kind of handed the front run of the race at this stage and did not think that was going to happen. It was really just stunning to see those yellow flags. But here we are, hop ahead, lap 11. It's time to get off these worn soft tires. We're going to dive in. Verstappen, you see right behind us, though, also diving in. So he's taking his softs off at the same time. You can see his crew getting those yellow wall medium tires out. So we're both running the same tire strategy the rest of the way here. So we're going to be racing off the pit lane. Trust my pit crew to get the job done here. We come out just in front of him there, so we're going to get on the throttle a little bit early. Opened up a teeny bit of a gap there.
See these tires through to the end now.
And as we come out of the pit lane, you see that yellow dot of Pierre Gasly make his way past Max Verstappen. So we've got a little bit of a buffer between ourselves and the absolute rocket of a Red Bull that Verstappen had. So we're going to go ahead and jump ahead, lap 17. Charles Leclerc coming into the pits just now for his second stop. He's running a two-stopper, two softs onto the mediums, just like our teammate George Russell is doing. So we are going to inherit the race lead from him at this point here, and we still have Verstappen hounding us, about 1.6 seconds off the back of us. He is just not going away, and you know, we're on equal tires at this point. It's just a matter of who can be faster finishing the race. But we are in front of two Red Bulls at this point. Giovinazzi in a podium position, as you see on the top left there. We're coming on that slow right-hander over that very dangerous cresting left, and then the flat-out downhill left before getting ourselves set up for the long back straight. Now, at this stage of the race, my only thought is keep your tires alive and keep that 1 second gap, because as soon as Verstappen gets in that 1 second, you're going to be in trouble. So here we are, lap 21, about 4 laps further along, and it's looking like we're in a little bit of trouble here. You see Verstappen right up behind us, so we take a little peek in our rear view mirror. He's going to have DRS, and he's got a great run on us. We're going to move to the inside, try and defend, make him go around the outside, but just look at the amount of overspeed he has in there. A little bit of a lockup, but he is full car length clear of us into turn 12. And at this point, we've still got 7 laps left to go, but the tires are falling off for me here, and Verstappen has steadily charged his way up behind. You also look behind, Bottas, though, has made his way past Giovinazzi as we spin the tires once again, and gotten himself into podium position, so split up those Red Bulls. But now we got to try and keep touch with Max Verstappen at this late stage of the race. Otherwise, we'll be kind of tossing away what would essentially be a gifted win. I mean, Lewis Hamilton had a 6-second lead, and he went out to a mechanical failure. So I have huge doubts that I would have been able to catch him over the course of this race. As you see, it's just hard to get the car down to the apex now with the tires really wearing down and not feeling particularly great at this stage of the race, especially through the S's. You know, it used to be, pretty flat through the first left kink and then a little lift in the right. Now it's lift early, get on the brakes for a couple of them, downshift, use that engine braking. The tires are not in tip-top shape, but now it's just going to come down to who can run better on the worn tires. Because now if I think about it, a little bit of a lockup in there, but at this point, teeny lockups, they're not going to do anything worse for the tire wear. At this point of the race, I'm thinking I'm probably running a little bit higher downforce set than what Verstappen is, because he's got great straight line speed. I mean, you see I can barely close up on him, even with the DRS wide open. So the result of that, if he's running a little bit lower downforce than me, is he's going to be taking a little more out of his tires through these technical sections. So at the very last laps of this race, I think I might have a shot of having just enough of a tire edge to make a move at some point and be able to take this race lead back. But it all hinges on staying in touch with him, because his straight line speed is phenomenal right now. If I lose the DRS, I'm not going to be able to hang with him in that straight line, and that's going to be it. He's going to be able to run off ahead of me. So here we are, lap 26, closing stages of the race. I've got DRS wide open. full fuel deployment, full ERS, and we're going to go down the inside. A little bit of a lockup. Car kind of straight lines. We have a little bit of a touch with Verstappen's front wing. So a little bit of an aggressive dive on there, but we managed to take that lead back from him. And now it's a matter of trying to manage the extra 2 laps because there's no way I'm going to clear the DRS range from him. So I'm going to have to really pull out all the stops in ERS deployment and do as good a clean defending as I can into the major passing zones. We managed to get just enough of a run on him coming down that back straight into turn 12 to send it up the inside. The little bit of a lockup, not ideal because we did make some contact. Like I said, not my cleanest pass relief, but you can see just how much ground he gains as we come down the front straight here. So I move a little bit to the inside to defend the corner, make him go the long way around the outside, and then force him wide on the exit. But you see a little bit of oversteer, back end stepping out, and he got a better run out of the turn 1 there but I got just to the exit before him, was able to kind of make him check up because, we're both on the racing line. So now it's a matter of holding ground through the S's and really just kind of keeping the back end of the car in check, especially over the hill left-hander. But you can see he is well in the toe of me as we head down, getting ready to come down the back straight for the second to last time. I've been saving as much ERS as I can. We're going to crank it up to overtake. I'm saving a little bit of extra fuel just for the very, very end of the race. But you see, I'm already moving middle of the track. If he's going to get me, he's going to have to go well around the outside. He gets fairly clear of me, but I'm a little bit later on the brakes. Take it to the inside, just reach that apex before him and defend very cleanly that time into that long back straight. So it's very close there, and now it's just tiptoeing through these corners. Do not give him a window or an opening. Back end stepping out just a little bit, little squirrely, trying to get the power down. Now you see how much we have to lift through this right-hander now that the tires are totally worn down. We just have to make him survive one more lap. 2 more DRS zones, his best opportunities to overtake me. Teensy bit of a lockup in there. He gets his nose kind of down in, but he has to check up because he tried to pass through an apex when I didn't even give him room. So that allowed him to fall back. His DRS was not enough to catch up down that straight. I was able to keep it in a low ERS deployment mode, low electric deployment, so I was able to conserve a little more energy to save it to just go balls out once we get to the back straight. Now, having run these S's on these very worn tires last time through, starting to get a much better feel for the worn tires. A little more cautious. I know he's not going to be able to make a move on me through those little sections, so it's just a matter of keeping the car clean, keeping it on track, and now just trying to get as good of an exit as I can out of this hairpin to put all of our engine power down, our slightly fresher engine. So we're going to see if we can defend one more time from him. And again, we're going to move a little bit to the inside, make him take the long way around. He's in the slipstream, but he's not quite close enough, so we kind of slide out, make him go very wide. Still give him plenty of space if he was to try and make a move past us, but he's not able to get fully alongside into the braking zone. So we managed to hold him off there, and now it's just a matter, this is kind of the last attack point. You see him trying to set up that wide swing through to dive through, but it's not enough of a run to get into this flat right-hander. Now it will really take a serious mistake through the last couple of corners in order to leave a door open for him. So it's just a matter of keeping the car alive, and we might be able to go back to back, coming through the last corner on the throttle, nice and early, looking back at him behind us as we cross the line. 2 wins in a row. This time we took our home race.
You've done everything we wanted today.
It's a well-deserved victory for Williams then after that breathtaking Grand Prix. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
It looks like it's time once again to hand out the silverware as these successful drivers make their way to the podium. It was a gritty performance today by Williams, and they've got the race win to prove it.
So we finally get our actual winning podium celebration. Obviously, Max won the championship last week, and it preempted our podium celebration for our first win of our career. So this time, we really get to taste the champagne, share the podium with Verstappen and Leclerc, our two closest rivals at this point in our career.
Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
I have to say Sebastian Vettel certainly caught my eye during today's race. Incredible driving.
Let's move on to the constructors. Red Bull pull further ahead in the standings. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So Leclerc, with the interesting two-stop strategy, still got him onto the podium, so pretty solid performance there. You see, we've got now a good 50-point cushion to Leclerc there, but now we're only 26 points behind Lewis Hamilton with 2 races left to go. At this point, the second place in the championship is not out of hand. I mean, if he DNFs again and we pick up another win, it's just about ball game.
Performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. It was more like Dodgems than Formula One today, wasn't it?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but it should be a little easier sometimes. I had a little bit of a bump from a couple of places.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
Oh, shoot. I mean, I really just kind of had to rely on raw power. I had to beat people down the straights.
We all underestimated you, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I'm a back-to-back winner now, but the team had faith in me, and it feels great to live up to it.
Great. Well, that's everything.
You're not going to say anything about me winning back-to-back races, Claire?
Great work this weekend. It was fantastic to see you up on that podium.
Not just on the podium, Emma. On top of the podium. Spraying champagne. Taking home that winner's trophy. Felt very good. I mean, so far in the career, 2 seasons, you know, we've had a pole position at our home race, and we've had a win at our home race now, so not in the same season, but, you know, still feels very good to be performing well consistently at our home race. So, as is tradition, now it's time to head into our R&D tree, continue to not develop anything because we have so many adaptations for next season. And you can see there are a couple of the midfield teams, Renault and Racing Point, that have continued to develop their car and have actually leapfrogged us in the development charts. Red Bull still had a nice, comfy head and shoulders lead above everybody else in that development chart, but you can see they're kind of, even Alpha has gotten their way in there. So we're actually the 5th best car on the grid now, but I feel like it's going to come back to bite them at the start of next season. They're spending so much development making the current car better for the last couple of races. They're not looking ahead to see what their car is going to do. So expect to see some of those teams take a bit of a dive. Mercedes and Ferrari, they've been pretty flatlined for the last couple of weeks, but we spend as much of the resources as we can. Only 10 more developments left to go. Only one of them major, so a lot of smaller component upgrades. But you can see as some of the other teams have moved up more recently. Renault especially took a pretty big leap in the late stages of the season. But you can see Red Bull hasn't developed anything for the last 4 races, nor has Mercedes. But yeah, taking a look at the Constructors' Championship, we've managed to put in some good performances, get ourselves clear of Racing Point. They're not going to pick up 100 points in 2 races. We may be able to close up on Ferrari if they have a couple of bad performances. But again, if Hamilton DNFs, we're in striking distance for second place in the Drivers' Championship now. But only 2 more races left to go here. We've got Brazil, and then we head to the finale in Abu Dhabi. So join me again next time. Thank you for coming this time for another win, another celebration, and I will catch you guys all a little later. Peace.